Ajadi, the host of 9 to 5 Blueprint, here with another episode of Season 2. Today, I'm going to share with you a quote from a book that I read over the summer called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's in the first paragraph and it reads, being a little bit nicer in each interaction can result in a network of broad and strong connections over time. And those connections that I've personally made over time is what has brought us our guest for today, Nimi Ajayi. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so I would like to tell you to please introduce yourself, tell our guests, our 9 to 5ers, about yourself.
Hi everybody. Again, I'm Nimi Ajayi. I have known Elizabeth for quite some time, and she's been a really great friend. A little bit about my background. Since we're going to be talking about resumes today, just let you guys know I have undergraduate, and I got my undergraduate degree in human resource development from the University of Minnesota, after which I worked for about 3 years in the human resource function before going back to school to get my master's in information systems, and now I am a strategic business analyst for a medical software company out here in Cleveland, Akron, Ohio area. So.
All right, that's amazing. So I've known Nimi, like you said, for a few years, and he has a wealth of experience. I mean, he's personally worked on my resume, so I'm telling you, I'm not bringing you fake information here. So I'm just going to dive into the questions that I have for him, and we're just going to have a conversation to help you guys, guide you in building your resume and forming your resume, for future job employments. Okay, so my personal assumption about resumes over the years has always been, okay, my resume is this door or window into my life when I'm applying for this job. So I need to put everything about what I've done, about my job experience and my interests and my future prospect, or everything, just any information really that's important on this resume. And it would be 2 pages, 3 pages. And then when I handed it off to him, okay, well, he had a lot of questions. And so over the last year, 2 years, I realized resumes should be more like elevator pitches. So when you look at resumes, what stands out to you as positive things? Let me backtrack. How do we make our resumes look more like elevator pitches?
I'd say first off, the industry standard is resumes should be just about a page. Anything more than a page, you're giving the recruiter more work to do. And the general idea is, recruiters have a lot of resumes to go through. On average, a recruiter spends between 30 and 40 seconds looking at your resume. So if they have to flip the page over, that's already too much work, and they're most likely not even going to be interested in anything that's not on the first page. So yes, essentially your resume, when you think about a movie and you really want to find out what a movie is about, there's that description that kind of describes what the movie is about, gets to the point really quickly, so it gets you excited to want to watch a movie. You're supposed to get the recruiter excited to want to learn more about you and hire you. A lot of what you're going to be telling them is going to come up in the conversation, so you don't need to essentially tell your entire story,
like me.
tell your entire story on the resume.
Okay.
A few more things that stand out. As human beings, we process things in chunks. So I think it's important when you're looking at the structure of your resume to have it broken into digestible chunks. Either your education being in one place, quick summary of what your skills are, either in the form of objectives, or some people use bullet points to just highlight what their skills are. And then you have your professional experience that kind of talks about the different places you've worked and the key things that you worked on while you were there. And then sometimes it's nice to add your interests just to leave room for some talking points in an
Right.
interview.
Okay. So I attended this online webinar a few months ago, sometime in April, and one of the things one of the hosts had mentioned was your resume is not a novella. It is an invitation for a conversation,
Right.
and that really stuck out to me. And that, basically what you just explained, it's
Right.
an invitation, a summary, synopsis, basically.
Correct.
Okay, so when you're looking at a resume, can you give us an example of something that would be a negative?
I think a negative would be, first of all, putting too much into one sentence. When you're describing, your experience, you want to break it out into, again, digestible chunks. I want to maybe look at the first line of your resume and quickly be able to have an idea of what it is you do and the impact you have had on the organization that you work for.
Okay.
I would say maybe I'll start from positives and then go to negatives. One thing that really helps draw the attention of a recruiter to your resume is numbers, metrics. Whether it is you work at a call center or it is your CFO, I want to see numbers of just how much you handle either on a day-to-day, in a specific period. I improved a certain process, reduced waste by 30%. I want to understand what the magnitude of the impact was that you had at your organization. The second thing that would be a positive, which would also lead me to negatives, would be grammar. No grammatical errors. You need to read your resume over 5 times if you have to ensure that there are no grammatical errors. Because on the part of the recruiter, if I see a grammatical error, it almost feels like you didn't care. And we want people that care. Most organizations want people that care in their organization. Right. So we want to see that you've done the work, and feel free to get help. There's software out there you can put your resume on. It'll tell you whether or not you made any grammatical errors. There are even some that could tell you what your tone is. I'm not too, I don't know if you plug any software, but personally I take advantage of Grammarly. That helps me tell what the tone of my resume is saying, or whatever literature it is I'm evaluating. Points out mistakes, points out times where I might have repeated a word too often. Because you also want your resume to be interesting. You don't want it to be a repetition of the same thing. I know, right? Exactly. Not even just so. Even using action words like conducted. If you use conducted surveys multiple times, it almost feels like you didn't do anything different in a different role.
Right.
So you want to pick strong and a variety of action words that communicate what it is you did on your resume.
Okay.
And lastly, for a positive, I would say use active voice. A lot of people tend to write out their resumes as though they're having a conversation. But no, I'm not.
I'm pointing fingers, me. Yep, I did that.
Yeah, so it's I did this, or instead of saying this is something that I did. So you start with yourself as the subject, and then you are direct about what it is that you did. It helps keep things concise and things like that.
Thank you. Honestly, yes. I think you've given us a lot to, chew on. Grammarly, for sure. And if you use the new Office, it's now installed. It comes with your Office product, Office 365, I think. I don't remember exactly. You can verify. But it comes with, and as you're typing, it actually verifies your grammar. It verifies for passive word, tone, voice. And so you're able to restructure the sentence, and it even gives you an example of what it identifies as passive and how you can restructure it. So thank you very much for pointing out. Tools are very, very useful. Use them wisely.
Right.
Okay, so question. So what are must-dos or don't-dos when you're constructing your resume?
Right. I think I already talked a little bit about the do's, and maybe
Just for
I can
emphasis.
touch on some don't do's. I think
Okay.
one thing you have to watch out for is the visual representation. Things like formatting. If, say, your dates of employment are not aligned in a straight line, those are things that, visually would draw the attention of a recruiter, and it just seems off. You start to look at the resume like something is off about this, and you don't really know what it is. You don't want any distractions from all the good work that you've done by having either your lines end at a different using the ruler outside of that area. So a lot of times what I advise candidates and even myself to do is to use the justified format. That way it stretches out all the text and makes it a straight line down the line on both sides. Using the same type of bullet point throughout the entire resume, because I see some people use arrows here and they use bullet points there. So you just want to make everything as uniform as possible. And also, you can feel free to be creative. You can change around where things are. You can have things in a column on the side, as long as it looks presentable, aligned. You can have fun with your resume, especially now if you want your resume to stand out. Depending on the type of company as well, you should also think about the culture of the organization. If it's something that they're looking for your more creative side, you don't want maybe your resume to be just in black and white. So I would say those are some of the few things off the top of my head that I can say are important.
I think you touched on the important things, the must-dos, the don't-dos, the positives and the negatives, and really that's what we're hoping to bring to you guys, to be able to give you those tips that are bump, 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 like I always say, that you can take and utilize and bring home and review your own resumes by yourself and think, okay, he mentioned this as a must-do, maybe I should be looking at my resume. Or a don't do, I need to align that start date. And so, that concludes this interview, really. We've given you everything. It's your take-home assignment to go home, sit down with your resume, use all these tips, and come to the comment section. Tell us what you think, give us your feedback, and tell us if you changed something. And let us know if this helps. Comment, subscribe, like, share, everything. Subscribe, and turn on the notifications. Goodbye.